Yo guys, Theo here on Common Sense. Quite tired after my trip. I had to skip Wednesday's video because I was traveling all day. Almost had to skip today's video because, well, this morning in the cold shower, when I'm, to pull the lever to turn it off, it broke off, and there I am with a cold shower just pouring down, no way to stop it. Luckily for me, I have a plumber uncle that could come later and save the day, but I had to kind of, guard the shower so I didn't get flooded. In return, as a grateful nephew that I am, I made him do some searcher squats in my basement gym. But so here we are now, and now I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about something I've been thinking about for quite some times, namely why I am built different. That's a comment I've gotten here and there, just, on the way I am, my mindset, the way I speak and tell my story, or how jacked I am, and the training intensity, training at a really, really high intensity, and even a thing like, when I eat raw beef liver. I've done that in a few videos, but I remember in one from this summer, someone commented that specific thing about eating the raw beef liver, that, man, you're built different. And people say this like there's something different with you and me, like I was just built different, like that just happened, but that's not true. I am built different because I literally built myself that way, okay? Anything you see me do, you can do, okay? Some things you might not be able to do quite as good as me, but some things you're gonna be way better, you're gonna excel, be even better than me, because think of it like this life right here. It's like the ultimate role-playing game where we can level up and improve our stats. And just like any role-playing game, the starting characters, they have slightly different stats and different strengths, different directions you want to go with the character. But all stats can be leveled up, and it's just that in real life, we actually have to do something specific to level up our stats. In a game, it would typically be slay some monsters, and now you just bang, level up, and you get some stats points and skill points. And yes, I am thinking about Diablo 2 when I say that. So I'm just going to give you some examples of how I built myself differently, okay? So first of all, I have my story with the panic attacks, and that's just not going to happen to everyone. But instead of going on medication or going to therapy or something, which I wouldn't say is a bad idea, the latter one, it wouldn't have, that would make sense in a situation like this. But I just intuitively understood that I have to face I didn't think in the terms of the nervous system then, but I just knew that somehow I'm programmed to feel like almost everything except being in my apartment is now a threat. I have to expose myself to this fake threat, because on an intellectual level I know that it's nothing dangerous, right? Until my body catches up and knows that it's not a threat either, right? I went through those months of that self-imposed exposure therapy. Felt like way longer because it's so intense, But then when I come out on the other side, now, having gone through something like that, yes, I have experienced crippling anxiety and depression since, but I always have that contrast. Somehow, I've always, wherever I found myself, even at a really dark place after that, it's just been like, well, there's still nothing close to that. I managed that. So on a deep level, I just know that I'll be okay anyway, because I was okay in the worst spot I've ever been in. I turned out okay. So even if it doesn't feel that way now, even if it's still really heavy at those times, it will turn out well in the end, right? And then you just take a thing like training. When you see me training so intensely now, that's like I wasn't able to do that as easily when I started. I actually trained to failure on most things quite early, but it was way tougher, and I had way more like trying to avoid it. I didn't enjoy it, I had exorphobia, as they call it, when you kind of try to delay and look for escapes, not to have to train. But the more I just done that over and over and over again, I can just do it. It's like certain exercises are always going to be tougher than others, but certain exercises, taking it to fail, is like, yeah, because it's an effort, you're going to see my face like, but it's like, it's honestly not even that difficult at this point. It's someone just start the sequence, go to fail, go to the rep that you can't do anymore, done, because I've done that so many times, right? And take a thing like fasting. That was not easy for me to begin with. Like the first fast I ever did, 5 days without eating, just salt water. Something was like easier with that. Honestly, it's even hard for me to remember now because it was so long ago, like how much I struggle with hunger and that. But there's always something different when you feel like, because at the time I thought it was like, this is something I'm trying once and then I'll probably not do it again or not in quite some time, right? But then I got this interest to actually try fasting, and fasts was way more tough for me in the beginning. I even failed a few 48-hour fasts. I remember that I broke on the second day, like 30 hours in or so. And doing 72-hour fast, there will always be a moment in the middle or so when I felt like really like nauseous, low energy, really feel like breaking it. But from just doing it over and over and over, and by the way, a great concept that I picked up from the snake diet, that I was a bit inspired by that guy when I started. Now I feel like since a very long time I've developed my own philosophy and the way I approach fasting, But a great concept there was that the guy, Cole, he always made people post accountability posts in his Facebook group if he wants to coach them for free, And you don't really have to do it in that group. You can just tell people about it. What I always did was that my longer fast, not every single 48-hour fast I did, but when I did a more special fast, I always announced for my audience on YouTube that I was going to do it. But you can do that on your social media, in a Facebook group like that, or even just tell your friends, so that you feel like a complete and utter embarrassment and failure if you don't. But anyway, having done it so many times, and this is key too with the physical component of the fasting, that you refeed on good healthy foods. If you just binge on junk food immediately after a fast, it's like the fast kind of cleans out the programming and you're supposed to install new habits on it. If you just go back to junk food, now it's not clean anymore, it's junk again, right? But so it's both a physical adaptation that happens, that when I do longer fasts now, I will just not struggle that much with hunger at all. I will mostly not struggle a lot with energy, but it's also that I kind of know how it works now, that if that when you are fasting, if you sit down, for instance, the body is way faster going to go into some kind of energy preservation mode and make you sit quite still. So sometimes you can feel a bit slow, but I just know that if I have to do something, if I just start doing it, after a while I will adapt in the other direction too, and the body will notice that, okay, apparently we have to move now, and then you don't have low energy anymore. But then it's a thing that I'm going to come back to other examples in this video, that it's not just that you physically adapt so you actually don't get as much hunger symptoms and that. You also learn to be efficient with your mind, that because what can happen for some people is that they stupidly go and look on food, let's say follow a food account on Instagram, or you start browsing, searching for food, and you're putting all these ideas and imagining eating and stuff. So now of course it's going to be more, you're going to trigger yourself into being hungry and possibly break the fast, or at the very least just make it unnecessarily difficult. And I've noticed with myself that on a fast, even when I don't feel that hungry, if I am on my phone, on Instagram, and I happen to see food, I notice that I linger on to it longer. Or if I feel the smell, because your sense of smell is greatly enhanced during a fast, right? I will, start going down that path. But I've just taught myself that I know that this will not lead to anything good. So just dismiss, throw away that thought, stop thinking about it. And that's way more difficult at first, but just like learning to ride the bike, and no one can kind of tell you this is how you move your feet to bike. And suddenly, after trying enough, it just clicks and you can bike. It's the same thing when you train your mind like that. You have to just, I try to dismiss, I have an intention to dismiss thoughts of eating. Eventually, you'll be able to do it. And then take something like the cold stuff, right? It was not easy for me. I remember when I was kind of proud early into my process that, I've been doing so well with the diet and training, and I see some people that are way more fit than me and also cold plunge and do the long fast and stuff. I'm like, that feels so far away for me right now. But it started for me, the sauna, and quite enjoyable thing. You can push the sauna, so it's kind of a hormesis thing too. But in part, at least when you start the sauna, it's kind of enjoyable. It's just hot and you you relax in there. I started doing cold showers connected to the sauna, because if you push it in the sauna, that's one of the few times when you actually might kind of long for colder water. When you're not used to it, even going out of the sauna really hot, the coldest water is usually going to feel quite cold. But by comparison to doing it in the morning, it's way easier. And so that's how I started doing the cold showers. And then I would try a cold shower the odd day here and there, And then I would start doing it in the morning. And I can't exactly remember now, but I think I started doing it hot being in the hot water for a while and then going to the coldest water. And I didn't even do it for so long, maybe some seconds only at the start. But because I would recommend, there's no point in doing some kind of mid, like, oh, it's kind of cold water. No, just go for the coldest, because you'll get used to it quickly. If you go into the coldest water 5 seconds on a day, it will be easier to go longer the next day. Like, it was still, you feel that resistance, but if that was your limit when you kind of almost automatically changed it, that's going to come a little bit later now. And then I just started going into it completely cold, and I decided I'm going to do this for like a couple months in a row. And then, like I tell you guys sometimes, it's still one of the things that I have the most resistance for in the morning, my morning cold shower. But it's so ingrained in me that, that's what it feels like to do cold shower. It's never going to feel like, oh, I'm so looking forward to my cold shower now. Always has to feel that way. But then, I started cold plunging in the lake, and I kind of started in the fall when the water is obviously way colder than what most people will go bathing in. But so I started like that, and then as it gets colder going into the winter, that's a sort of progressive overload, right? And then I would just, at different times, I would decide that I'm going to be in it for at least this amount of time. Maybe if I filmed it, I had the camera facing me so I could see the little timer up on it, And now at this point, well, it's always quite intense to go into when it's like, pretty much 0 degrees in the water, when it's just a hole in the ice. But the same thing has happened there. How much sometimes we just make things so big in our head. It's the same thing with the training to failure when I think about it, like, oh, this next set is going to be so tough. But when you just know that, well, Theo, you're going to do it anyway. There's no point in thinking about it like that. You're just making it worse, wasting all this energy on anxious thinking about it. Same thing. I used to, when I was heading to the lake, it's like, it's going to be so cold, and I'm going to have to get dressed and walk from there. Again, I just taught my mind that there's no point in that. It's going to just get tougher by you thinking about that. Just head there, think about it as little as possible, just go in. And by the way, I'll drop this little tidbit. Anything that's like tough to do, like let's say go in cold water or start a heavy set, I have a sort of thing that I've done for years now, that if I feel some kind of resistance, I know that I take 3 deep breaths, and when the third time I breathe in, that's when I start. So if I'm going to do weighted chin-ups, there's where I start the set, and same thing, I would go down the water after the third breath. I'll take something like eating the raw beef liver. So honestly, some people say it's more like, better nutrition that way, better bioavailability. It might be, To me, honestly, it was just a thing that I felt like, I noticed from all the things that I do, that the more you face just discomfort or fear, things you feel like resistance to for whatever reasons, the more you overcome that resistance and kind of get used to it, the more just comfortable you are in your life all the time. You want to get more comfortable, you want to get more confident, you face discomfort, you face fear, and see that you can do it, And a thing like eating raw beef liver, like I told, it's like a cold shower thing for me. It's like why not cook it? I'm sure it's still nutritious when you cook it, right? But so that one was surprisingly difficult for me. It's just so slimy, that strong iron taste, and so I would cheat eat it first, like, almost like a supplement. I make this protein yogurt, right? That's all tasty, and I would take that and then just throw in pieces with it, But somehow, just from doing that, even if you mostly disguise the taste, sometimes you're gonna get a little bit of the taste here and there, And so it's a very low entry level to doing this. And on some level, you just know that I've been eating raw liver. It's just that I kind of disguise it as much as possible. Then I would start trying to just take a raw piece and chew on it, but I couldn't even do it. I started like, I can't go through with it. I have to swallow it with my yogurt. But just going there for enough times, now I can quite easily throw in a raw piece or two and just chew it and, keep a straight face and not even have to try to keep a straight face so much. If I go on to eat too many, it's still a challenge for me. But you see, and all of this, guys, it's not me bragging about how fucking built different it's the opposite. I'm trying to show you that you build yourself different, right? That I'm not just gifted in being able to do these things. I built myself this way. And so take some little other examples. Let's say, actually a funny thing, it's been like a meme with sunnier balls, right? Which is, it is in part a meme. There is some to it, like, okay, there's more like, is it androgen receptors, on the chest and on the balls? So like, it might even boost testosterone to expose that. But even on a level, it's like, when you're a wild human being, yeah, well, living in the wild, you're probably going to be naked a lot. All of you are going to get exposed to the sun at some point, so it's even that. But then it's just this little thing of, in this modern society, it's quite interesting. On the one hand, it's so degenerate and promiscuous, but also like our sexuality and bodies, we feel a lot of shame, and like certain things need to be hidden, like, oh, God forbid, a nipple is shown on Instagram, and yeah, we're kind of afraid of being seen naked, right? So when I started doing that, I remember I felt like very nervous, even kind of picking spots on my balcony, when no one should be able to see me, the angle I'm sitting in, but what if someone did that, because we're so programmed that, naked in public, bad. And of course, we're not supposed to, a civilized society, you're not supposed to be naked everywhere, but in my balcony, in the dead angle, I shouldn't really have to worry so much about that, right? And having done that enough, and even going out in the forest and doing it, and feeling still, what if someone comes, Now, I'm just quite comfortable with that. And it's a similar thing when you do the cold plunging, you're cold, you gotta get out. You kind of can't always think about not being seen naked. You just kind of have to throw off your swimsuit and get dressed quickly. And if someone sees your naked butt or something else, what's the cause? That's the point, In this fucking society, walk around being so afraid of so many things that we're not really supposed to be afraid and uncomfortable or feel shame about, really, Another thing, I walk in this area. I walk around shirtless a lot in the summer. You see it in my videos, right? That's another thing. I just would not walk like that in the middle of the city where it's crowded and really like right in the middle of it. But walking around my little chill neighborhood here and the forest shouldn't really have to be a big deal, right? And people can be like, oh, well, it's easy when you looking like you. No, it's the same thing. It also, that you're exposing yourself. You also know that when you look like me, people are going to think like, oh, he's showing off. He just wants to show off, which is not true. That's the way I want to tan. I can't stand just sitting like that. It's not natural even, every once in a while. But I want to walk around like that because it feels good. It's warm in the summer, but I get a nice healthy tan doing it that way, right? And so just doing that over and over, I get used to it, right? Last example, I think you see the point here, that it's always, you have to, if you want to get better at something, you want to get more comfortable, you want to feel less resistance, not be a little bitch that pushes out on doing the cold plunge and that, what you have to do is walk in that direction, try it a little bit more, continuously, a bit more, and the more layers of discomfort and fear you peel from yourself, the more comfortable you just are in your entire life. So another thing, about the shirtless thing, I had one client actually, he was so impressed that I just pulled off my tank top in the gym for to pose for because I am a content creator, right? And he's like, how do you just do that? With people around and that. Look, I also feel uncomfortable with that. Everything, when you start filming yourself in the gym and that, you think of it, people see me film, they feel, you just have to do it. And of course, with a thing like that, I think it's kind of douchey in a gym to right in the middle of people do it. But I will, if I have to do that, because I want to pose at the end of my workout, I will try to pick a secluded place of the gym, hit the last set of something while the camera is already rolling, quickly throw off my tank, I pose a bit. At the first start, I felt self-conscious, like, people are going to think, I'm such a douche doing this. But I know I just want my content, right? And after a while, you're just used to doing a thing like that. But so, the last thing I'll say, people talk about, they are impressed by the way I express myself. And I wish I was as good as you at expressing yourself, Guess how? I mean, I might be born, this why we're talking about the starting character, It's always been a good trait of mine. I've been quite verbal. I learned to speak early. People thought I was older when I was, older than I was when I was little. But if you go back and look on this channel, on average, I was worse at speaking. I'm gonna have worse presence, just without necessarily being nervous. That's what I mean. A thing you pick up on with doing this, all these little layers of discomfort and being a little bit in your head and that, and not being used to phrasing things a certain way. You become a little bit more timid, and you can see just as straight of a progression as you can see with my physique, you can see with my ability to speak to the camera. Guess why I'm so good at expressing myself? Because not only have I just meditated and thought a lot about my ideas, because a lot when we just think for ourselves, it's not always verbal. You know, we think in our own kind of just language in our head, right? But I have externalized my thinking so many times to the camera. I've done over 1,000 videos on this channel. Many live streams are hours long. Podcasts are hours long. I have client calls talking about my ideas to people. It's like you get better. And I have conversations with friends, of course. I talk to for hours to friends, well, both in person and on the phone at times, right? That's why I'm so good at expressing myself, because I'm expressing myself. I'm practicing articulating what's inside me externally, externalizing what's internal. That's why there are many men. Faz, when I had him on the podcast, he said it really well, actually, that there are many men that understand the things that you and I do, but they don't have the ability to express it. Guess why we're good at expressing it? Because we do, you know. Just go back a few years and look at some old videos of mine, and you're gonna see some, you know, look at old fasting videos, whatever, that I still talk about. You're gonna see that I express the same thing, just both more clearly, just in the actual words, but my presence with a camera too, because I practice it. So guys, that's, you know, I just wanted to rant about different ways I built myself differently. That didn't just happen. I wasn't built by God differently. God built the little initial Theo, and then he was shaped a certain way by his circumstances growing up, and then he became conscious and decided, you know what, I noticed I could rebuild myself so much after that panic attack phase. What other ways can I rebuild myself? You know, so that's the thing, guys. Taking on new things. If there's something you want to become better at, you just have to walk in that direction. Now, a last thing comes to mind here. I mean, many things come to mind, but you know, on this trip, I went to this with my friend. We went to this psytrance party, you know, and we were sober, to be clear, like pretty much a gram of caffeine and all like legal bodybuilding supplements you could think of for the fun of it, you know. But other than that, because most people at a place like that, they're not sober, you know, they are high on something, you know. Being among people that are so chemically enhanced, confident like that, you know, it's kind of intimidating being straight sober, you know, apart from a little bit of caffeine. But I want to be more comfortable in my skin. There's so many I'm sorry, I was going to round off the video, but also I think it's a shame how, like, you know, not social people are these days, right? Like, we're so disconnected. We're supposed to be social beings. This is supposed to be social media, and yet most of you are just here looking, and most of you are hearing me speak now. You're not going to leave a comment even. You know, you're just going to be on the receiving end of a social interaction without having to do anything. And here out in public, especially in Sweden, Stockholm, people are so like, it should be natural to just say hi to most people you pass by, unless it's like super crowded, you know. But if you pass someone by on an empty street, you should say hi, right? But people are so like this. And so even me, naturally extroverted, I've been affected by this, but I decided I don't want that. I want to be social in my life. I want to have interactions all over the place. And I now, because I practice it, first feeling awkward, starting to talk to people in the gym, in stores, in all kinds of places, just waiting for the bus or whatever. Now it comes very naturally to me, and I spread a lot of good energy, and you really impress people by being that relaxed and confident, because most people are like this. But again, I just wasn't naturally like that. I built myself that way. So the last thing I want to say is, I started taking, so New Year's resolution, I started taking dance classes. So it's like Latin dances for beginners and some other, I don't remember the label of those dances, because I know I'm gonna feel quite awkward there. It's both with the physicality, you know, I am at this point, I'm strong, I am flexible, you know, I have good control over my body, but I'm not good at more like small, precise movements and also having a bit more flow. I'm good at making myself like rigid and moving like that. So it's both that I want to develop that quality. I also want to, and I want to literally get better at dancing, of course. But I want to feel more comfortable in my skin, anything like that. You know, the first dance lesson with a girl I was paired up with, you know, I'm not necessarily nervous, but all like, you know, moving like this, you know. Then she was quite chill, and I paired up with her now. And the next time I went, I immediately felt like I could move more fluently, because that's what I want. I want to build myself like that. I don't want to be a little stiff, little shit, you know. So, quite a long video, ranty video, but some of you like that. So, we're finished here, guys. So please like and comment. Tell me how you built yourself. What did you start thinking about here? You know, when you watch and follow me, guys, that's the entire thing here. Don't think that I'm just some fucking hero that's different than you. I'm just like you. We're just slightly different starting stats, but you can become so much more. That's the message on this channel. So yeah, I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked, mentally, physically, spiritually, becoming that individual that you're supposed to be. If you could use some help and guidance with that, I'm here. You can send me DM or on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below. I'll tell you about my different programs. The elite program would be for the one that really wants to level up big time. You can pick up my training book, everything training, philosophy, mindset related, that goes into becoming a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual that you need. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast and losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. You're not just built different from the start. You build yourself different. Peace.